My name is Christy, and this is Angel Talk, where the archangels are real, relevant, and accessible to everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk. Hello, friends. Thank you for being back here with me for another episode of Angel Talk. This is Christy Michelle Riggs, and I hope all of you had a very, very good and safe 4th of July weekend and eclipse. We had the eclipse over the weekend, and the energy was intense. I will tell you that. It was for me, at least, and even for my cat. Poor Miss Kitty. She usually helps me quite a bit to kind of work through and ground intense energies. And bless her heart, she was even freaking out. So it was definitely intense. And I apologize. I wanted to get the second part of the July angel messages recorded and done and posted for you guys by the night of the 4th, and I'm guessing that it was just the really intensive energies that we were experiencing, because I just did not feel well. It was really until about lunchtime today that I felt any better at all. At first I maybe thought that I had eaten something that was bad, but I don't think that was it. I think that it was just I'm very sensitive to energy, and the energy sure was intense. So if any of you are experiencing physical symptoms, that are uncomfortable, or sometimes they can even be a little bit frightening if you don't really know what's going on. And they can manifest in a whole range of ways, a lot of different ways. But we sometimes forget that we are having the unique experience of accomplishing in one lifetime what it normally takes many lifetimes to do. We are experiencing the evolution and upgrade of the human body. And, normally we have to, pass on, do our life review, take some time, and then come back. And that's a many lifetimes, many cycles, upgrade experience. And we are able to do that in this lifetime, or we're being not really asked. It's happening. We just can either, get in alignment with it, and it can be a little bit easier for us, or not. The Bible talks about, death, burial, and resurrection, and what we sometimes either don't realize or that we forget. I know I forget a lot of times that we are truly experiencing that death, burial, and resurrection many times in this one lifetime, in this one body. And so when you think about how incredible and how amazing that is, and what our bodies are being called to do, it's pretty incredible. And I want to remind you to thank your body, to really, really thank your body for everything that it's doing, all the hard work that it's doing, to go through these upgrades, to upgrade the DNA, to upgrade just all of it, the physical vessel, it's all expanding, it's all upgrading, it's all coming more and more online. And we just really need to I would just really encourage you to pay attention and kind of become aware of what kind of a relationship that you have with your physical body. For the greater portion of my life, I did not have a good relationship with my physical body. I struggled with eating disorders, an eating disorder off and on. And I had this very negative dialogue for so many years with my body, this negative inner dialogue. And I was sick. I stayed sick for the majority of those years, off and on, with one ailment or another, one thing or another, and I just never felt good. Now, some of that was that I was not giving my body proper nutrition, but I now understand that a lot of that was the way that I was talking to my body and shaming my body and telling my body that it was terrible and that it was, all of these horrible things that I would say to myself, to my body internally, in my mind, and in, feel those things in my heart. And so what happens is your body listens to that. The cells of your body listen to you and respond to what you are saying to them. And so these last, 5 or 6 years, as I have experienced so much healing and have, come to understand the way that our cells respond to the way that we talk to them, I've really, thankfully, with the help of the angels, been able to heal so much that I never thought that I would be able to heal. I kind of thought that this bad relationship with food and with, kind of get like a body dysmorphia, because I was never overweight, and it wasn't even about that. It was about, the trauma that was held in the cellular bodies, and that I was just, unaware of how all of that worked, and I was feeling that so heavily, and so much density, and then I would get I would feel so much shame that I was taking that out on my body. And when I developed a healthier relationship with my body, and it evolved a little bit at a time. It didn't happen overnight. But the angels really, really helped me to be aware of that inner dialogue and to start to change that inner dialogue and to view my body from a different perspective. And now, when I think about all that my body does for me and has done for me, when you think about all that the human body does just to keep you alive every day. Years ago when I was in college, the first time I went I thought I was going to be a nurse. That's what I wanted to do originally, and I did work in the hospital for several years. I remember the day that I learned everything that had to happen in perfect timing and in perfect, order, everything that had to happen for the human heart to beat one time. And I thought, oh my goodness, I almost couldn't get my head around it, the awe of it, the profundity of it. Because in my mind at that time, it was like that there is nothing in me that can understand how, there's such a divide between science and the fields of science and then the spiritual fields. And for me, like when I learned everything that it took for the heart to beat one time, I thought, well, this here, what I'm doing is I'm learning the science of how God has divinely created us. To me, what I was learning only further proved to me that we are divinely created. And so I just wanted to take a minute and talk to you about really focusing on thanking your body. It's doing a lot of work, a lot of really hard work, and a lot of just magnificent, incredible work that it normally takes many lifetimes to do. And the perfectly designed vessel of the human body is stepping up and upgrading, and I think it's really incredible. And so I just wanted to remind us all to take a moment, and even when we don't feel well, even when we've got some really, wonky and uncomfortable ascension symptoms, be thankful for that. Let's not get in a habit of complaining about the ascension symptoms. I see a lot of that, on social media and online, and I just think that's unfortunate, because just the magnitude of what our bodies are doing for us, so that we can come along for this planetary ascension, that we can still be here and be a part of it and come along with it. It's just incredible to me. And so even when we feel uncomfortable, even when it's a little bit frightening, even when it's not as pleasant as we would like for it to be, when you think about what it is that our bodies are actually doing and why it is that we feel that way, then to me it just calls for gratitude. So I wanted to share that with you guys. So we are finishing up July angel messages, and we talked the first time. We kind of framed all of this up, and we kind of set the stage for the card reading and the direct messages. And remember, we're working with Metatron, so we work with him. We're going to be called to really show up, to level up. We're going to be asked to really raise our consciousness, really open up, to a new perspective. We're going to be asked to, check our ego at the door, to maybe push ourselves, and, we're going to be asked to stretch past what's comfortable. We're going to be asked to be flexible with our beliefs and be open. When we hold so tightly to our beliefs, that really keeps us limited and keeps us from being able to expand and to ascend higher. And so we're, working with Metatron will ask a lot of you, but the reward is an incredible amount of growth and an incredible amount of, being able to access and use tools that we already have. We're made perfectly, and we already have these tools within us, and Metatron will show you where they are. He'll show you how to get them out, show you how to use them, and then you will see the benefit of them and the change that can really, really take place. So, and he will help us every step of the way. Every step of the way, he will help us. So that's what we're being called to do. So the way that I did this card reading was a little bit different, and this is the way that I'm going to be doing the monthly readings. But it's a little bit different than just the way that I had done. If you listen to my previous messages and readings, normally I'll just pull, however many cards that I'm guided to pull, 3, 4, 5 usually is what it is, and I just pull them one right after the other, and then they kind of tell a story as they go along. There are many different ways to pull cards and do card readings. No one way is right or wrong. However, God and the angels or your spirit guides are leading you to do that however you feel comfortable. That's the right way for you. So that's important to keep in mind too, as more and more people are starting to do readings, is that we not, get in a habit of saying that there's a right way or a wrong way. So the way that I did this, and I have done readings like this before, and I really liked it. So this is, I think this is the way that we're going to do the monthly readings from now on. Is I pulled one central card to give us the overall theme for the month, and then I pulled 4 cards and asked, for support and guidance to help us integrate this one central theme. And so Metatron has given us that, and it's as always with Metatron, it's complex but very simple. He really pulls things back. He helps you to peel layers back and get back to that original source within, that original source code, and self as source mentality and feeling and acceptance, and that doesn't require a whole lot of adding to. What it requires is peeling away and making it as simple as possible. And so the message, the card that we are going to be focusing on for the month of July is the Authentic Self card. And the card says, "Who are you? Who are you? Walk into a hall of mirrors and you will see 100 reflections of yourself." So if you remember, we talked in the part 1 of this message about some things that are going on with the divine masculine and the divine feminine right now, and it's important to remember that we all have, our souls are androgynous, and we all have divine masculine and divine feminine elements. When we come into the human vessel, we choose to primarily express either one or the other, but they fit together like puzzle pieces. But we have both of those within us, and we have to really get in touch with, become aware of, get in touch with, and bring into balance the divine masculine and the divine feminine within ourselves, so that we are not literally at war with ourselves. And so that those divine masculine and divine feminine qualities can be expressed authentically, and that we don't get these, adulterated, false versions of those energies, which is what we have had for quite some time. And as we can see, those things are falling away. It's really bringing the divine feminine, the authentic divine feminine, back to the forefront. And by doing that, that is going to allow the divine masculine to heal. As we talked, the seed of a lot of what the divine masculine has experienced, the trauma, the hurt, the wounds, is because of a distorted view of the feminine energy, and a distorted, because of what they experienced was an adulterated, false, shadow version of the divine feminine. And so in order for those wounds to really be healed, the message that I was given was, the divine feminine in its authenticity, in its nurturing and creating a safe space, and its, you know, unwavering love, unconditional love, the kind that we think of as a mothering type of love. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, or to not to be deprecating, or not to infantilize or anything like that, or emasculate the divine masculine energy. It's actually quite the opposite. You provide that safe space where the masculine can be vulnerable and be sensitive and be emotional and go through his process, knowing that you are not going to see him as any less than the warrior, the protector, the provider, those authentic divine masculine qualities. And so if you haven't listened to part 1, please go back and do that first, because that really shapes up this whole message that we're talking about here now. So Metatron has brought forward this card to draw our focus on our authentic selves. And what we have to do to get to our authentic selves is we have to ask the question, who am I? And a lot of times, most of the time when we ask that question, that the answer is, well, I'm, like for me, it's I'm Taylor, Kayla, and Chloe's mom. I'm Debbie's daughter. I'm Betty's granddaughter. I'm a wife. I'm a this. I'm a that. And I have all of these different hats that I wear. And what we have to realize is all of those titles that we give ourselves, or that others give us, are a lot of them very wonderful titles to have. I love and am so grateful for being able to say that I'm Taylor, Kayla, and Chloe's mom. So grateful for that. But that's still not my authentic self. Because it's in relationship to 3 other people. So we have to really peel away, who am I, when it's simply the I. And yes, we are all connected. That's not what I'm not trying to separate us from that. And through this process of finding the I, it will actually affirm the connection to all. We also have to peel back the layers of what the world has told us we are. We do this to children. So sometimes this is going to, a lot of this stuff is going to be several layers deep that we got to peel back and really, go inward and become aware of. We do this to kids. A child might be going through, a sensitive period where, I remember when my son was little, and he went through a period, right after his sister was born, because he was not even yet 2 when she was born, and I stayed home with him, and so he had my undivided attention all the time. And he went through a little bit of a period where he became, right after she was born, where he was a little bit clingy, and he would, if we were out in public and somebody went to talk to him, he'd kind of hide behind my leg. And sometimes when children do that, and maybe they're just going through a sensitive period, and then we start to give them all these labels and try to explain their behavior away and say, oh, he's just shy, or oh, he's just this or she's just that. And we just don't even think about it, and we do it to we do it to kids all the time. And so, if you tell somebody something long enough, especially a child, then they will start to believe that, and then whenever you believe something, it's going to manifest accordingly. And so, that child that might just be going through a sensitive period, but is naturally not a shy child, for the rest of its formative years and on into adulthood, it's going to they're going to tell themselves, I'm shy. That's why I did that. I'm just shy. I'm shy. I'm shy. And so it becomes like a hang up, or sometimes even like an excuse. I know sometimes I don't mean to laugh about it. It's not, I don't find it comical. I'm thinking of those things within myself that I've had to, peel back, that, uh, sometimes, like we'll say, well, I'm just made, I'm just wired that way. I can't really do anything about it. God just made me that way. And so, in my life, that became kind of an excuse not to heal those things in certain ways. And so what we're being called to do is peel all of that back and ask Metatron to help you. He helped me with this, and I'm telling you right now, it is when you have the experience of looking in the mirror and seeing yourself for the first time through the eyes of the divine, through the eyes of God, through the eyes of angels. It is the single most incredible experience that I've ever had. And I've had some incredible experiences. I mean, I've given birth 3 times. I have experienced some incredible, magnificent things in these nearly 41 years. But the first time that I looked in the mirror, especially after a lifetime of very, very negative self-talk, very negative perception of myself, a lot of self-deprecation. The first time I was able to look in the mirror and see my true, authentic self, to see myself through the eyes of God. I don't have words for the magnitude of that. It changes everything. It changes everything. And I am so grateful that, the angels worked with me in the intensive way that they did. Because I just never thought it was possible to feel that way about me. And I just can't tell you what that's like. And I can't wait for each of you to be able to experience that. But, call on the angels for help. Call on Metatron. Call on Archangel Raphael to help you heal, those things that others have said about you, and those beliefs and those judgments and those, ways that others have tried to shame you or put you in a box or decide for you what you were supposed to be. And the angels will help you release all of that and let all of that go and transmute that and replace that with true and accurate beliefs about yourself. And it's just, you want to talk miracles. That, to me, that felt miraculous. It still feels miraculous. And it really helps us to put into balance and to bring forward, to get in touch with and to put into balance these authentic divine masculine and divine feminine qualities. And so when we're thinking about, what things that the world has told us we ought to be or that we should be, Metatron is asking us to think about that in relationship to those masculine and feminine qualities. I know for the feminine, we have had to work through a lot of, the world has told us that we have to always, look perfect and be perfect and be perfect mothers, and our house always has to be perfect. And then not only do we have to do everything just perfect as a wife and as a mother and as a homemaker, but then we have to, be just as good as any man at anything. It's just all of these really distorted, and unfortunate false messages. And so when we let all of that go and we really get in touch with our true divine feminine nature, intuition, nurturing, being steadfast, being healers, being uh, but being strong for our family, kind of being that matriarch, that divine matriarch of the family. And now we are being called to really help the divine masculine see himself through the eyes of the divine. And one of the biggest ways that we can do that, ladies, listen to me here, because I did this. This was a change I had to make, and I'm telling you, I just beg of you to be brave and make this change, because what it will do for you and the divine masculine, you have no idea how much healing can take place when you start to speak life into somebody. When you stop, focusing on and reminding somebody and pointing out to somebody all of the things that you think that they might be lacking in, or that they're not quite doing right in your opinion, and you start focusing on the good, and you start speaking life into somebody, your words have incredible power. And especially to heal these seed type, the seed of these wounds that the masculine has experienced. When you start saying things like, I believe you can. I believe in you. Thank you for all that you do. You do a great job at this, that, or the other. You know what I really like about you? You know what I really appreciate about you? Is this. And you start pointing those things out. I'm telling you what it will do. You're not ready for the transformation and the healing that you get to watch right before your very eyes. So just point out something good and speak that life into the divine masculine. Allow him this space, he's been triggered. And this, this is not, I'm not even just speaking like in romantic partnerships. This could be this could be the divine masculine within yourself, and you're trying to bring that into balance. But whatever, relationship that you have, or it could be many different types of relationships that you have with a masculine in your life. If you will allow that space for him to go through this process, and you make it a safe place for him to do that, it will allow him to have the healing, allow him to experience these things to be brought forward, for these things to come up and be brought to the forefront, to process through, to work through, and to just get it out, because it's toxic. It's like poison in our systems when we carry that. It's so dense and it's so heavy. It has to come up and come out. And as that is happening, the thing we have to remember is that it has to be replaced. In order to transmute you have to replace it. You have to change it and replace it with something different. And so if, as these things are coming up and they're wanting to be released, if we can really help the divine masculine by helping him to replace those things with positive things, speaking life into him, speaking life into, and as we do that, we're speaking life into the masculine, elements of ourselves, and we'll be able to help each other with that process of seeing ourselves through the eyes of the divine. So that's the focus for the month of July, is we're going to become aware of all of these masks, all of these labels, all of these roles that, while some of them we may really enjoy and others of them not so much, we're going to shed all of those. And we are going to ask Metatron and the angels to lift that veil, so that that veil of distortion, so that we can look at ourselves and we can see ourselves through the eyes of the divine, and we can see our authentic source selves. And we can help each other. We can speak life, speak healing into each other, into ourselves. It will create a positive feedback loop that will gain momentum and bring about rapid and lasting healing. So the first support card or support message, the first of the four messages that have come through to support us and to encourage us and to help us, uncover and see ourselves authentically, is the card that says, detached from drama, look up. Whatever you are going through, whatever is weakening, challenging, and hurting you, is something that can be eased by changing mindset and stance. And this is a message calling us to really focus on our inner dialogue. The picture on this card is a young woman, and she's sitting, almost like in a ball, like how we sit on our bottoms and we tuck our knees up and we kind of put our head down as we wrap our arms around our knees, and we kind of make ourselves into a little ball and we're looking down. And so we can get into a pretty depressed state just by sitting like that. And so the card is saying, look up. Change your perception. Become aware of your thoughts, because you are not your thoughts. You can be an observer. You can step back and watch your thoughts as they happen, and become aware of your thoughts. And you don't have to take those on as beliefs. You can it takes some practice, but you can do it. And it's really, really life-changing when you become aware of the things that you're saying to yourself, and you're just taking that on as a belief, without even, being consciously aware of it. And then the effect that has and how that ripples out. And so Metatron is calling our focus to our thoughts. And that's going to be vitally important for seeing ourselves authentically. Finding our authentic self is going to be focusing on our thoughts, because if we have this negative self-talk and this negative dialogue, and the dialogue of, we don't realize how much of our dialogue is not even our own dialogue. It's stuff that we've been told, it's other people's stuff that they have placed onto us, and unknowingly we've accepted it, and then we start to run it through our thought process as if it's our own, and we believe that it's our own, and we just accept that and believe it. And so it's really easy to fall into a cycle, fall into just that becoming your normal pattern of focusing on everything that's negative. And, like we've talked about so many times, I think we've touched on it in every single episode, about what you focus on, you will attract more of. And so if we're always focused on what's wrong with ourselves, or what's wrong with the world, or what's wrong with somebody else or our situation, then that's exactly what the universe is going to show us more of. We're going to draw that to ourselves like a magnet. And so Metatron is asking us, encouraging us, and he will help us to practice becoming aware of what our thoughts are, and then making a conscious choice to decide whether or not that's positive, whether or not we want to attract more of that, and whether or not we're going to choose to take that on as our belief, or if we're going to observe it and then make a conscious decision to choose differently. So if we have that thought that comes through that says, something negative, like, for example, if you're, a divine masculine, and you're struggling to express yourself emotionally and be very vulnerable, you might have a lot of inner dialogue that is others, society and other people in your life, those expectations and things that others have put upon you over the years that say, that makes you weak. You're not a real man. Many just nasty things that can be said, have been said, and then you start to say those things to yourself. And so I want to tell you that if you, will stop and really think of how much of that is coming through, and the next time that you're feeling emotional, or you want to be vulnerable, or you want to just be, kind and sweet, and nurturing, or expressive in an emotional way, maybe you're moved to tears by something, or maybe as you're trying to process some of your hurt, some of that comes out in tears, and you have those thoughts well up, then I want you to see if you can stop in that moment and say, that's untrue. Say to yourself, that is untrue. There is strength in my vulnerability. I am a warrior of God. I am one of the legion of angels who is bringing about love, change, good, light. I am doing incredibly hard work. I am worthy. I am strong for my family by doing this work. I'm strong for my community by doing this work. I'm strong for myself by doing this work. It's hard work, and I'm doing it. I'm healing my wounds, and that's not easy. You say those positive things to yourself, and you have compassion for yourself, and know that there are, true, authentic, divine feminine, in the world that are so proud of you and are rooting for you and are appreciative of all that you're doing and the ways that you have held space and allowed us to heal. And so we want to help you with this, with your thoughts and this inner dialogue. And this is not just exclusive to the divine masculine. I just point that out because this is such a sensitive period for the divine masculine healing. As anybody, as human beings, this is something that we can do every day, all day long, every day, as greater self mastery. Moment by moment, is to be aware of our thoughts and how that is shaping our reality, and how we can truly change our reality by changing our thoughts. Okay, so the next message of encouragement that has come through to assist us with this focus on discovering our authentic selves is one that along my journey I found to be particularly challenging, and it's for every bit of measure of challenging that it did feel for me. It is equal and then exponentially so rewarding and healing. And so Metatron is encouraging us with this card, and it says family, circles of life. Take a moment to think about those who love and support you in life. And the picture on the card is several generations of what look to be the same family, but several generations of that family all together in one place. And this one, I'm very aware and certainly compassionate to the fact that this one can be a tough one, especially because our earth families, for a lot of us, are where our deepest, most traumatic wounds come from. Those are the source. That is the source of the majority of what needs to be healed. Particularly again, as we're focusing with these particular messages on, encouraging and uplifting the divine masculine to find healing. And so what Metatron wants us to do here, what he's encouraging us to do, and now this is going to be one where we're probably going to be stretched, to past their comfort zone. I'll just, go ahead and tell you that, because that's how it was for me. But it's worth it, and we can do it. And when we do that, it really will provide the relief that we've been saying, that we always wish that we had. Is that we wish these things that happened in our family had never happened, and now we're experiencing all this hurt because of it, and why did that have to happen? And well, there is a way out of that pain. It is through a change of perspective. It is a great deal through compassion and understanding. And it is a great deal through a desire to release that pain so that we release the control that it has over us. And sometimes that in and of itself, we don't think about this, but this is true, because our ego, and I don't want us to shame our egos here, okay? Our egos are necessary for our survival. We just have to remind it what its place is. We have to thank it for trying to protect us, but that it's not needed in these situations, and we're going to handle it a different way. And so we just have to talk to it and remind it. But this is one of those places where we can become very resistant, and the ego can jump in and give us all kinds of excuses, all kinds of reasons why forgiveness is not the answer. And the number one reason that it will give us is that if we forgive something, then that means we're saying that it is okay. And that's just not the case. We have to ask the angels to help you understand true forgiveness. This is something I really had to work on. Well, I shouldn't say, I don't want us to keep telling ourselves that we're constantly working on something and striving, and because that implies a focus on the negative. I had to really stretch beyond my comfort zone to open up to a different way, to be willing to see things from a different point of view. And sometimes the ego doesn't want us to do that, because then it's like it frees up so much space. It is so healing, so profoundly healing, that it frees up so much space that the ego does not have jurisdiction over. That it will kind of start to panic and be like, well, what am I, what do you do with all that? What do you do with all that healing and all that peace and all that clarity? I remember sitting in bed kind of late one night, and my inside my head, especially at that time, was just constant, just a million miles an hour constant, between the sort of the extrasensory and clairvoyant, clairaudient, between those kind of like metaphysical experiences that I've always had, and then just my own neurotic dialogue at that time. And then, like we talked about, all the dialogue that is other people's dialogue that we, take on and think of it as their own. And so inside my head was kind of just, a lot. And, but I had really set forth the intent to heal and release. And I didn't want all that heaviness and all that stuff up there, and in there anymore. I was getting to my authentic self at that time. And I can remember late one night sitting in the bed, and I just kind of took this breath, like, I just kind of looked around. My husband looked at me because he knew that my mind would, was like that just all the time, go. And I was always thinking something. And he looked at me and he said, what you thinking on? And I said, nothing. It's kind of quiet up there. It's weird. And we both had a good laugh about that, but it was a wonderful feeling. A wonderful feeling. And so if we can work with this message of healing and releasing this stuff that has originated in our earthly families, these sources of hurt and these wounds, and we release that, oh man, you are not prepared for the space that it frees up. And that is the peace that surpasses all understanding. I'll tell you, is when you are just sitting there and it's just quiet and there's nothing wrong. You're not trying to suppress anything. You're not trying to numb anything. You're not trying to detach from anything. And yet at the same time, you're not overanalyzing, replaying, getting all worked up, thinking about what you would say, what you should say, about how wrong somebody else was and how you should. No, you're just quiet. And it is blissful. It is absolutely, it feels divine. And in those moments, you will start to notice your other senses. Like you will start to like see colors more brightly. Like literally the colors will change. They will be brighter, more vivid. You will start to notice the smell of things, like the flowers, and like the smell of food. I remember cutting strawberries down in the kitchen, right around this time. And I thought I knew what strawberries smelled like. And as I started to heal, this family stuff and release this stuff and make all this space was freed up. And I can remember being like, oh my God, these strawberries smell good. And you start to there's so much space that it just opens up for all of this, to notice just all of these wonderful things. And how we have to get to that. I tell you all of that to tell you, to give you encouragement of, what's on the other side of the challenging stuff. And how we have to go about this is to really change our perspective on, the way that we view our family experiences and these things that have happened to us. And I know a lot of you are probably sitting there in this very moment and saying, Christy, you just don't know my family. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the hurt and the unspeakable and I understand, believe me, far more than you would think. I do. I understand. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I'm not asking you. The angels are not asking you to say that any of that is okay, because it's not. It's just not. And it is so not okay that's why we're being asked to release it, is so that we can change it, so that we can break the cycle. We can break those family karmic cycles, and we don't have to pass that down to our children and our children's children, and so that no other generation will have to experience what we have experienced. That's how big this is. Okay? It's on us to heal it because we're the ones that can. That's what we came in here to do. And that means that we are strong enough to do it. We are. I believe in you. If I can heal, and if I can see these things differently, and if I can release the things that I carried around for a long, long time, I know that you all can too. I know that you can. It can be different. It will be different. And you won't have to have these things consuming so much of you and weighing you down and holding you back. um, I wrote a, a book. It will be it'll be available on the website sometime soon. But at any rate, one of the it's a book about finding self-worth, about radically changing your self-worth. And in one of the chapters, I can't remember exactly how I said it, but I talked about that what I had realized was that I had been begging for healing. I had been begging to not feel that way anymore. I had been begging to be released and for to not have to endure that and be treated that way and have to have all those things weighing on me and that war within myself. I was begging for that in one hand. And then in the other hand, voluntarily handing over the scissors to allow others to clip my wings. Because every time that I refused to heal it and I refused to let it go, I was bringing that into my now and allowing more of my wings to be clipped. Because I was not, as an adult woman, I was not being exposed to those things and those situations in a direct way anymore. But all the anger and all the sadness and all the frustration and it was turning very quickly to bitterness and, it was manifesting in a lot of different ways. It was a tangled mess. I was making the choice. I started to become very aware of how I was making the choice to continue to allow that to shape what my experience was years later, And I was choosing to see myself as small and not able to do anything about it. And I just want to touch on this too. There's so much, well-meaning, I believe it's well-meaning, messages and material out there right now that is just it concerns me because it's got a very bitter, hateful energy to it, and it's wrapped in a spiritual bow. We got to be real careful about that. There are a lot of messages out there right now talking about, shutting people out and, basically kind of like screw them and the horse they rode in on kind of energy for, just to put it real bluntly, call it what it is. Wrapped in the bow of empowerment and setting boundaries and all these kind of things. And we have to be very, very, very careful with that. Because there's not healing in that. There's still anger, resistance, suppression, and it's the same energy, just disguised differently. And so there's no true freedom in that. And what the angels really laid on my heart and really called me to do through my process is see things from a different perspective. My mother and I have had a challenging relationship at times. And I asked the angels to show me where I needed to see differently, show me through a different lens. And this being the year of 2020, I've heard many people talk about it as the year of seeing clearly, that 2020 vision. And so when we show up and level up and really come up to that much higher place of awareness, and like we talked about before, I think I mentioned that if you've ever been in an airplane, the higher up you go, the further out and around you can see. And it's that way with our perspective and our consciousness and our awareness too. And so Metatron is asking for us to join him up in that higher perspective, and he will help us to get there. He'll help us. If we have the desire and we ask for help, he'll help us. He certainly helped me. And so I started to see my mother through a whole different lens. And it did two things. It was very interesting how it did these two seemingly opposing things that both needed to be done in order for healing to take place. It helped me to see her through a very compassionate lens. It helped me to see the things that she had experienced in her life and the things that she was carrying on the inside, and the ways that she didn't know how to get to it or heal it, or was too afraid, or just all of these things. And I softened a lot toward my mom, and had a lot more understanding, and stopped needing to argue about everything with her, and stopped needing to prove that I was right, or that I was doing things better than she had ever done, or I stopped needing to validate myself through putting her down and making her, and blaming her for everything. And I started to really see like her inner child. And I thought, oh, wow. Oh, and my heart went out to her. And, so I started to say things to her when we were on the phone, like if a conversation would start to, go in a direction that typically I would have jumped right in the ring with her and gone for blood, in an old energy. And so what I started to say was, Mom, I love you too much. We've already got enough hurt to work through, so I love you too much to add more to it. I'm going to have to get off the phone right now. We'll try again another time. And at first it was very confusing to her, naturally so. But over time, it wasn't an overnight thing, but over time, this really started to bring about healing, and my mother softened a little bit toward me, little by little, Now we have pleasant conversations on the phone. I will say our relationship is still not all of these things that years ago I had set in my mind that it had to be in order for it to be, valid and good, and for me to be able to tell her that she was doing the right thing as a mom. Because all of that was me doing the same thing to her that I was mad at her for doing to me. Putting these expectations on her of being something that she just could not be, and then getting mad at her when she wasn't those things. Well, that was what had caused my, a lot of what had caused my hurt. And so when I saw from that perspective that I was really no different, doing no different, and then what we were able to do is allow our relationship to be its own unique thing and what it is going to be. And now it has, room to evolve and grow, and it can be whatever it needs to be in the moment. But it's not going to be angry, and it's not going to be filled with hurt. And so it helped me to did two things. It helped me to release through compassion and understanding. And it also helped me to set loving boundaries, which is something that I don't think anybody had ever done with my mom. I certainly never had. And what I realized is that by doing that in a loving, calm, peaceful way, but yet still holding firm to those boundaries, I was teaching my mother how to love herself. I was teaching my mother an example of how to do those things. And, now I can't remember the last time that we had, even a conversation where anything like that needed to be pointed out, because it's just after a while, if those energies fall flat, then they give up. That energy just, it realizes that there's nothing there to feed on. There's nothing there to nothing there to there's no like there for it to draw like to. And so it just doesn't show up. And the wonderful thing about that is I'm showing my mom an example of how she too can heal from all of these things that she, may have never thought that she could heal from. I'm showing her an example that, yes, it can be healed. And this is how we're going to do it. This is how we can do it. This is what works. And I'm not having to carry all that junk around anymore. I'm not having to carry all that pain and all that hurt around anymore. And now I've even gotten to a place where I can thank my family for those experiences. And even in that, I'm not saying that it was okay. But what I am doing is seeing it from a perspective that is even, so much more of a higher consciousness. It's so much more of a higher perspective that I'm taking into consideration and being aware of the fact that before we ever even incarnated in these earthly bodies and in these earthly families, we made agreements with these people of how these things were going to play out and what we were each going to do. And we signed up to be a part of these families, and they agreed to do this with us so that in order to trigger and bring about and put us in the best possible situation and scenario to trigger the most growth and the most expansive, evolution of our souls. And can you imagine how difficult sometimes I think about, and this has brought me a lot of healing and understanding as well. Sometimes I think about what those conversations must have been like, on the other side of the veil, when it was, there we are talking to each other and we're making these agreements to do these things. And our families were, we've asked our families, we need you to do these things so that we will be triggered to awaken, because it will be so painful. We need you to hurt us so badly that we will be triggered to awaken and heal it and ground it and heal it for all, so that no one ever has to experience these kind of things again. And they loved us so much that they said, oh gosh, that's going to hurt you. And we said, I know, but please, it's the only way. And they said, okay, we will do it. We will do it because we know the highest and greatest good. We know what the outcome will be. And when we get down there, we're not going to, gosh, it's going to be hard because, you're not going to remember that that's why we're doing it. You're not going to remember this moment when we're making this agreement. And it's going to hurt. And you're going to be so mad. And you're going to be so, oh gosh. And we said, I know. But you got to hang tough. You got to do this. You've got to hurt us in this way so that we'll wake up and heal it. And then nobody ever has to do it again. And then once we do wake up and we remember that that's why, oh man, it'll all be okay. We'll see if we can really look at it through that lens. That brings about an incredible amount of understanding. And through looking at it through that lens and realizing how much that has helped me become who I was supposed to become and heal what I was supposed to heal and share with you these things that I'm sharing with you that I was supposed to share with you. And I knew that the only way to get to here was to walk through there. And so now I can look at those relationships and those situations and those people who I spent so much time and carried so much hurt. I spent so much time in this very sad, angry, dense, heavy, painful place. And I can say, thank you. Thank you. Sincerely, because that couldn't have been easy, for your true self. That couldn't have been easy for your higher self to watch those things happen and to just have to step back and allow it, knowing, and for you to sign up to do that because you knew what the benefit that it would be to my soul evolution, and that it would shape me into the person that I am. It would remind me of how strong I am. It would remind me of the God within. And it would just catapult me into healing this for good. Healing it and breaking these cycles and changing the face of humanity forever. Forever. That's what this is doing. That's how big this is. And that's what Metatron's talking about. Part of what he's talking about when he says to remember our authentic selves. Remember those conversations before we ever came here. Remember those agreements. Remember those things. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. It's some of the most challenging energy that we will work with in this lifetime, I think. And again, as we're really thinking about the divine masculine and the triggering and where that's coming from and the hurt that the divine masculine is feeling right now, Let's speak life into that. Let's encourage the divine masculine. Let's tell him he is strong enough to do this. Let's help him to release by allowing him to have this process, allowing him to feel whatever it is that he's feeling, letting it come up, letting it come out, and telling him, thank you for being here with me, thank you for helping me to heal this, thank you for being willing to go through unspeakable things so that we could heal it, break the cycles, and change it. You can do this. We can do this. And either energetically or face-to-face or over the phone or through a letter. I've written letters, and, I've written letters that I've dropped in the mailbox, or just, put out there with no, no address on them, but like no street address on them, but with, names written on them and messages inside them. Or just, lots of different ways that you can do this. Have conversations, either in person, face to face with somebody. If someone's passed on, ask Archangel Michael to bring forward their spirit. If face to face is not, an option for you right now, or not something that you feel like is for the highest and greatest good, then have a conversation with somebody's higher self, their true, authentic self, and spend some time in meditation doing that. And have those conversations. You will be blessed by them. Sometimes we have to be the first ones to extend. A lot of times we have to be the first ones to extend the energy of healing, to make it safe for the other side of, that equation, to feel safe, to do that too. We have to be strong enough and willing to do that so that we don't have to carry it. Nobody else has to carry it. We can truly, when we do that, we're able to release all of this dialogue and all of this stuff. It takes all of that with it when it's released. And we get to recreate ourselves based on our true, authentic self, because then we're not carrying all of this stuff. And I'll tell you the other piece of it, and this was big for me. The other piece of it is the cascading effects that it will have with your own children. My middle daughter, when I was still too afraid to face my own shadows, my own pain, and I was, making decisions and doing things, earlier in my life that were spewing my hurt out on everybody else in sight. And my children unfortunately had to bear some of that, a lot of that, and I can never go back and change that. That's why I'm so passionate about healing this now and breaking these cycles, is that's the way that I can make it different, make it right moving forward, and make a new path forward. My middle daughter, she's sophomore in college, and she is just so beautiful and so sweet, and we were so close when she was younger, and she's not speaking to me right now. And I have spent so much time in prayer over the last few years. It's been a little bit that this has gone on, and I have missed her so much. And I know she's got to be hurting, because nobody, just doesn't nobody just cuts off communication and goes silent unless, I mean, I know she's hurting. And I know that there's a lot of things a lot of conversations that we need to have. And I've been ready to have these conversations, and I've been desperate to offer her that healing and to offer her, those apologies, and to make this right with her. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed. And finally, the angels asked, help me see what I can't see. What am I missing here? Why is this not? I'm willing. I mean, and one day I said, what is it? I'm doing it right. I'm willing to, I desire, not just willing to, I'm desperate to give her the apology and the accountability that I never got. And I'm in tears and I'm crying and just so desperate to talk to her and heal this. And the angel said, you're still bitter about it. You still got some stuff left in there with your own mother. And until you heal that, it's not going to make the space to break the cycle. It's not going to break the cycle, and you're not going to be able to heal it with her. You have to set the example for your daughter of how it can heal, to be willing for it to heal by doing it fully and completely with your own mother. And I was like, whoa, okay, wow, okay. I gotta really get real with this. I gotta go deep, deep, deep with this. And I've got to fully release it and fully heal it. So that's, if you are, one of the many parents that you might be estranged from your children or have challenging relationships, have something that needs to be healed with your child, yes, absolutely, be willing and be persistent. Keep offering them that healing. Don't stop trying, reaching out to offer. Don't stop. Don't ever give up on that. But I would encourage you to look at your own relationship with your parents and be just as willing and just as relentless and just as desiring to heal that relationship as well. And have the perspective that allows you to see how that cascades down and cascades and mirrors. And so we are that bridge between the two. And Metatron will help us walk that bridge between the two. Okay. Let's heal it. Let's just heal it. It's time. It's gosh, aren't we tired of hurting? Aren't we tired of carrying this stuff? It's heavy. It hurts. And I'm starting to see I've been seeing my children carry it. I don't want that for them. I don't want that for your children. I don't want that for anybody. So it starts with me. It starts with you. We got to help each other, lift each other up, speak life into one another. And as we're focusing on the divine masculine and the seeds of his wounds and these family, the mother wound within him, and the false divine feminine, the adulterated divine feminine, we have to be the example of the authentic divine feminine energy, to give him the safe place to process this. And so that the divine masculine is then triggered, it's triggered within him to remember, oh, this is safe, this is true, this is authentic. And I'm safe to allow my true, authentic, divine masculine to now step forward and to find balance within myself, within the masculine and feminine within myself, because I'm not at war with myself. I'm not at war with the feminine within me. That allows, I'm not at war with the feminine energy in my life all around me. I'm appreciative of it. It's authentic. It is safe. It is good. This has been transmuted because it's been replaced. The negative, the hurt, the shadow has been replaced with the light and the authentic. So then these energies can be in the same space and complement each other. We build a whole new way of life for ourselves, for our children, for eons to come. From here on out, it's different. We came in to break the cycles and say enough is enough. Let's release it. Let's heal it. Let's replace it. Let's do better. And we're going to thank even those that hurt us for triggering that to be a desire of ours so that we could do whatever needed to be done in order to get there. It's a tall order. I know it's a tall order. And so do the angels. And so that's why they're offering us their unwavering help, support, love. Ask them, help me see this through another lens. Show me where I can find the compassion in this. Show me what I need to do, and they will do it. They will help you. I promise. And it will be worth it. It is worth it. So the next supporting card, supporting message that we're being given through Metatron is the purity and innocence card. It says white, the color white, and it's a beautiful card. It has a picture of a white angel wing and these very soft, very pale yellows and lavenders and mostly white. And then within the angel wing is a white diamond. And it says, the white ray calls you, asking you to put down whatever troubles you and to be soothed in her natural embrace. And so what Metatron wanted me to share with you through this card, what he's really encouraging us with is to see how when we release all of that, we get, we peel all that back and we release all of it, and we really get back, or we bring forward, we can't go backward, but we call into our now, we allow the space for it to come forward. This very pure and innocent self, the inner child, gets to come forward, and it is the self that is not adulterated and distorted by trauma, by the messages of the world, by hurts, by anything. It's this self that sees through the lens of Source. And it is just so sweet and innocent and beautiful and at peace. And, when we think of the color white, it looks so pure and so peaceful and just so it's so beautiful. It's really strange because it's actually kind of very interesting because I love art. I paint, I make art. I love to everything in my life is an expression of art. The clothes that I wear, the way that I decorate my home, is all to me a a a creative work of art. And when the colors that I like and the type of art that I like to make or have around me, the way that I decorate, things that I wear, I can see how, because those things have such an effect on me. It has an effect on all of us, but I think because of the way that I'm wired up, it has a particularly